Some stories don't begin on red carpets. They begin in silence, behind doors no one remembers. Arnold Schwarzenegger hadn't stepped inside that gym for over 50 years. But when the door opened before sunrise, he realized someone had always been there, holding it open. And that man was never mentioned in interviews, never listed in payroll, never had a nameplate on the wall. But without him, none of it would have happened. Before we dive in, let us know where you're watching from today, and if you like this story, don't forget to subscribe. The gym didn't look the same. New paint, brighter lights. A smoothie bar where the old water fountain used to be, but the floor still creaked. And the front door, the heavy one with the slow hinge, still made that sound when it opened. Not a squeak, more like a sigh. Arnold stood outside it for a while, longer than he meant to, hands in his coat pockets, breath fogging slightly in the cold. It was early, earlier than even the trainers arrived, earlier than most streetlights switched off. He didn't reach for the handle. From the other side, someone opened it. Slow, no surprise, just like always, Joe stood there, the same face, just older, more creases in the cheeks. Shoulders narrower under that familiar gray vest, the same one with the faded patch. The name Joe stitched in a thread that had long since frayed to colorless loops. "You still come early?" Joe asked, like they'd just seen each other last week. Arnold didn't answer right away. He blinked once, then nodded. Joe stepped aside, held the door open. Arnold stepped in, and just like that, 56 years folded into the space between them. No ceremony, no cameras. No words about what either man had become in the years in between, just a hallway. Arnold looked around. The treadmills were new. Digital screens now blinked where a chalkboard used to hang. But down in the corner, behind a sign that said staff only, was a red mop bucket, dented, wheels scuffed, same color, same quiet presence. Joe walked ahead. His keys jingled softly at his hip, not loud, not for attention. Just a rhythm, like something that had always been there. Arnold followed, not because he meant to, because that's how it had always been. They passed a row of mirrors, too clean, too bright. Arnold caught his reflection, didn't stop. He glanced at the bench by the locker room door. Same spot where he used to eat tuna from a can. Same spot where he once wrapped a torn callus in an old rag and came back the next day to finish the set. He didn't say anything. Joe didn't either. At the end of the hallway, near the old water pipes, Joe stopped, propped the mop against the wall, bent to check the bucket. The water was already there. "How long's it been?" Arnold asked quietly. Joe didn't look up. "Since what?" "Since you started." Joe wiped his hands on his vest. "Before the machines, before the dumbbells had rubber, before you." Arnold smiled, small like a breath. Joe picked up the mop. "You still drink it black?" he asked. Arnold looked up. "What? Coffee?" Arnold nodded. Joe turned. "Come on." The break room was smaller than he remembered, or maybe everything else just got bigger. Same microwave, new fridge. The bulletin board was still there, just newer flyers now, protein workshops, early bird yoga, a CPR course. But in the corner near the door, the clock hadn't changed. It still ticked slow, still wrong, 7 minutes behind. Joe poured 2 cups from the old drip pot. No sugar, no cream, just the smell of early mornings and burnt filters. He slid one toward Arnold without looking. Arnold wrapped his hands around the cup. Didn't drink yet. Joe sat down. "You still remember the first time you walked in here?" Arnold nodded. "Didn't think they'd let me in." "They almost didn't," Joe said. "Manager said you looked too young, too foreign." "He did." Joe took a slow sip. "I told him I'd watch you, said I'd make sure you didn't break anything." Arnold let out a breath, almost a laugh. Joe smiled. "Look how that turned out." They sat like that for a while. No talk of fame. No mention of movies or governors or Mr. Olympia. Just steam rising off 2 old cups. Arnold looked over at the wall, the one by the door. There used to be a timecard machine there, now just a blank space. "Did you ever clock in?" Joe shook his head. "Never had a card." Arnold looked down. "All this time?" Joe took another sip. "I just came in, pushed the door open, did my part, then left." Arnold set the cup down. He didn't say thank you. It didn't feel like the moment for that. Instead, he said, "The door was always open." Joe nodded. Someone had to make sure it was. The coffee had gone cold. Neither of them mentioned it. Joe reached for his mug again, took a sip, winced slightly, then kept drinking. Old habit, not for the taste, just the rhythm. Arnold hadn't touched his. The room was quiet. Just the faint hum of the vending machine behind them and the occasional tick of the wall clock, the one that still ran 7 minutes late. Arnold looked at it now, then back at the bulletin board. Bright flyers for spin classes, nutrition workshops, team-building retreats. Underneath them, just barely peeking out from the pushbins, was something else. A laminated sign, all staff must clock in, no exceptions. Arnold stared at it. Joe followed his eyes, then looked away. "You ever use one?" Arnold asked quietly. Joe shook his head. "Never had a card." Arnold didn't answer right away. He looked down at his cup, lifted it, took a sip. Still bitter, still strong. Still the same as that first cup, handed to him before he ever touched a barbell. "You worked here how long?" Arnold asked. Joe shrugged. "Since before the padding on the benches, before the mirrors got replaced, before they started calling it a fitness center." Arnold leaned back slightly in his chair, felt the metal frame give a little same old stiffness. "So, no pay stubs, no pension, nothing." Joe didn't blink. "I was on paper for a while. Then off, then back on, then off again." He paused, "Mostly off." Arnold frowned. "Why?" Joe took another sip. "Then, didn't have the papers, not at first." There it was, no drama, no reveal, just the truth, quiet, settled. Arnold looked at him. "You were undocumented." Joe nodded once. "I crossed when I was 15, never learned how to fix it. By the time I figured it out, I was too deep into it all." Arnold said nothing. He didn't know how much he didn't know, and now that he was hearing it, it felt like a missing floorboard under a trophy shelf. He looked at Joe's hands, same calluses, same crooked thumb. One fingernail bent slightly to the left, like it had grown that way around the work. "No health insurance?" Arnold asked, already knowing. Joe shook his head. "No retirement account." Joe smiled faintly. "I've got a drawer at home, with some old checks, a photo or two, and one of those wind-up clocks that used to sit on the front desk. I saved it when they replaced everything." Arnold let out a slow breath. Joe leaned forward. "You want to know something funny?" Arnold didn't answer. Joe tapped the table with one finger. "The day you won Mr. Universe, I cleaned up after a kid who threw up by the squat rack. Same day, same shift." He smiled at the memory, not sarcastic, just real. "They paid me $18 and gave me half a turkey sandwich someone left in the fridge." Arnold looked down. Joe kept going. "I used the money to buy gas and sent the rest to my brother in Bakersfield. He needed a new car battery, said his old one kept dying in the mornings." The room was quiet again, not empty, just full in a different way. Arnold looked up. "You ever want more?" Joe tilted his head. "More what?" Arnold gestured around them. "Recognition, money, a job with benefits." Joe leaned back in his chair. "I didn't stay because I liked the mop." He looked out the window. "I stayed because the floor never lied." Arnold didn't speak, didn't move. Joe finished the last sip of his coffee, set the cup down gently, lined it up with the edge of the table perfectly straight. He looked over at Arnold. "You built something here, with your body, with your time." He paused, but someone had to make sure the lights came on. Arnold didn't sleep that night. He sat at the kitchen table, lights off, just the hum of the refrigerator and the unopened envelope beside him. The letter wasn't long. It didn't need to be. County hospital, Joe's name, diagnosis, stage 3, no insurance, no coverage, no legal record of employment, not enough history to qualify, not enough future to matter. Arnold read it twice, then folded it, put it in his back pocket, and drove. The hospital was quiet, too clean, that kind of clean that smelled like bleach and something unspoken. Room 211C, second floor, view of a parking lot. Joe was awake, sitting up but not far, a thin blanket draped over his knees, TV on mute. He looked over as Arnold entered, no surprise in his face. "You found out?" Joe said. Arnold didn't nod, didn't ask how long. He just pulled the chair closer, sat down. They didn't speak right away. Joe broke the silence. "It's not the first time I've been invisible." Arnold looked at him, really looked. Joe's skin was thinner now, face more hollow, but his eyes still sharp. "You could have told me," Arnold said. Joe shifted slightly. "You were busy becoming someone." Arnold said nothing. Joe leaned back, looked at the ceiling. "You remember that year I disappeared?" he asked. Arnold blinked. "Yeah, I thought you moved away, or got sick." Joe gave a dry chuckle, sort of. He took a breath, slower than usual. Immigration showed up. Arnold's eyes narrowed. They had questions about who was living where, who was signing what. Joe looked over. "They noticed your name on a form, said it didn't match the gym's records." Arnold sat still. "I told them it was my fault, that ID used your info without permission. They let it go, but told me to leave the county. Said I shouldn't come back for a while." Arnold leaned forward. "You took the hit." Joe shrugged. "You were 17, still figuring out English. They would have eaten you alive." Arnold's hands tightened. "You never said a word." Joe smiled. "It worked, didn't it?" The next day, Arnold went back to the gym. He didn't train, didn't talk, just walked the hallway, stopped by the blank wall near the back. There used to be a no loitering sign there. Now it was just paint. He stood there for a long time, then made a call. 3 days later, something new appeared. No frame, no lights, just a small brass plate, screwed gently into the wall. It read, "The man who opened the door before the world was ready." Below it, no name, no photo, just space. By noon, someone had taped a note beneath it, ripped from a receipt, handwritten. "He gave me a protein bar once, said I looked too skinny to be a janitor." By the end of the week, there were 4 more. "He waited by the locker until I stopped crying. He found my lost earring in the drain, cleaned it before giving it back. He fixed the heater with duct tape and a spoon." Arnold didn't add anything. He just read and checked the tape to make sure it didn't peel. Back at the hospital, Joe was weaker, but when Arnold walked in, he tried to sit up straighter. Arnold pulled the same letter from his pocket, set it on the tray. Joe glanced at it, then looked away. "I know what it says." Arnold's voice was low. "They won't help, no file, no history, you don't exist." Joe turned his head. "I always knew that." Arnold leaned forward. "Well, now they know you." Joe raised an eyebrow. "How?" Arnold didn't answer, just smiled. That night, Arnold stood in front of the plaque again. Someone had added a flower, just one, a daisy in a plastic cup. No note, just there. The hallway was quiet, no music, no announcements, but the wall had started speaking, and for the first time people listened. It wasn't a ceremony, no one gathered, no one filmed. There was no speech, no podium. Just a man with a screwdriver and a small brass plaque in his coat pocket. Arnold waited until the hallway was empty. Then he approached the wall near the back, the one between the water fountain and the staff closet. The one no one looked at. The one Joe passed by every morning for 40 years without once stopping. He measured nothing, held the plate with one hand, marked the holes with the other, then drilled, gently, 4 screws, no level, just instinct. When it was done, he stepped back. The plaque was small, no frame, no light, just brushed metal, 12 words etched in black. This gym opened each morning because someone opened its door. No name, no title, no date. He didn't add flowers, didn't post about it. He just stood there, looked at it, then walked away. No one noticed the first day. People passed by. Trainers set their coffee on the bench across from it. A teenager leaned her phone on the plaque to record her warm-up. No one read it, not yet. But on the second day, a folded note appeared beneath it, taped with old scotch, written on the back of a receipt. Arnold saw it early, gym still quiet, lights still warming. He crouched to read it. The handwriting was uneven, the kind that comes from writing without a table. It said, "He helped me carry my gym bag to the bus stop in 2009. I never told him I had a broken rib." That was all, no name, no signature, just that. By noon, someone else had taped a second note, then a third, a torn piece of notebook paper, the corner of a flyer, the blank side of an expired membership card, each with a memory, each with a moment. "He stayed late once. Helped me find my wedding ring in the drain. He never made fun of my limp, just cleaned around me slower. He saw me cry, didn't ask why, just offered water." Arnold didn't say anything. He didn't tell anyone it was allowed. He didn't have to. By the end of the week, someone left a binder. Old, soft cover, taped at the spine. Inside, the first page had a title written in blue ink. If you remember Joe, write it down. Arnold didn't know who put it there. Didn't ask, he just checked the pen beside it every morning, made sure it worked. One morning, he arrived early, earlier than usual. The gym hadn't opened yet, and a girl, maybe 16, maybe younger, stood in front of the plaque. Hood up, backpack on, she wasn't writing, just standing, staring. Arnold stayed back, watched her take out her phone, snap a photo, then reach into her bag, pull out a sticky note, write something, and press it gently onto the wall just under the plaque. When she left, Arnold walked over. The note was pale green, written in small letters. When no one said hi, he said, "Don't worry, some people speak with their eyes." Arnold didn't touch it, he didn't move the binder, didn't fix the tape, he just stood there, and for the first time, he realized the plaque didn't need to say everything. The wall would do the talking. By the end of the second week, the binder was no longer blank. Most pages held just one entry, some two, all written by hand. No one used paragraphs. No one tried to sound poetic, just fragments, just facts. He kept WD-40 in his locker, sprayed the hinges when they squeaked, never told anyone. He taped my shoelaces once, said new ones would come later. He replaced the batteries in the scale. I thought it was broken. It wasn't. Arnold read them each morning, never all at once, just one, then closed the binder, let it rest. Someone had taped a photo to the wall, a printed screenshot, blurry, taken from an old security cam, probably. Joe kneeling beside a trash can, a boy next to him, no older than 10, holding his stomach, about to cry. Joe had his hand on the boy's shoulder. That was it. No smile, no attention to the camera, just a hand, steady, present. Underneath, someone wrote, "He helped me breathe when I panicked, said panic's just a loud whisper, told me to whisper back." Arnold read that one twice, then closed the binder, again. One Thursday morning, a man in uniform, USPS jacket, worn shoes, stopped by the plaque. He didn't look around, he just stood, hands in pockets, then took out a folded napkin, taped it to the wall. Arnold waited until he left. Then read, he used to leave half a protein bar near the exit. Said skinny guys shouldn't carry boxes on an empty stomach. No name, just that. The hallway changed, not in color, not in light, but in the way people walked through it. Slower, eyes down, steps softened, like the ground itself held stories. A few members began using the side hallway again, the one they used to ignore. Some paused, some didn't, but the wall had become more than a tribute. It had become a place people visited, not for answers, but for memory. Arnold noticed things too, like how someone had added a pen holder next to the binder. No label, just a plastic cup, always full. Or how one note, barely legible, was written in pencil, a child's handwriting. "He taught me how to mop," said figure eights made the floor shine. The page had dirt on the corner, as if it had been carried around, then finally let go. Some notes weren't about fixing objects, they were quieter than that. He told me silence was stronger than yelling. He didn't ask why I was shaking, just said the showers were clean today. He stood by the locker until I found my voice again. Arnold didn't comment, didn't organize them, didn't rank or curate or highlight. He just kept the wall clean, checked the tape, replaced the pens, and once quietly added one himself. No one saw. He tucked it behind the binder. A page with one line. He waited for me when I had nothing left. The next day it was still there, untouched. That was enough. Arnold sat in the parking lot for nearly an hour, the letters still folded on the passenger seat like a verdict. No one had spoken out loud. The hospital had sent him to the office. The office had sent him to the archives. The archives had sent him nowhere. 3 visits, 4 departments, 0 results. Everywhere he went, the same phrase returned, like a brushstroke that kept erasing itself. "There's no record of a Joseph Santiago employed in this facility. No contract, no timecard, no badge, no signature on a payroll log, not even a pass for visitor access." It was as if he had never been there. As if the man who opened the gym each morning, who fixed the lockers before anyone noticed they squeaked, who turned off forgotten hallway lights past midnight, had only existed in the corners where no one bothered to look. Arnold finally reached for the letter. It crackled, dry, clinical, final. Per system verification, Joseph Santiago does not qualify for post-employment assistance. No formal employment file has been located. He folded it back with care, not because the paper mattered, but because someone should handle the silence with respect. He didn't call anyone, didn't ask for favors, didn't bring it to the press. Instead, that afternoon, he returned to the hallway. The same hallway where Joe had once reattached a door handle with no screwdriver, where he had lined up 6 chairs after hours, not because anyone told him to, but because he saw the cleaning crew struggling with space. Where he had stood for 22 minutes one winter evening because the heat wasn't working and a student had forgotten her scarf. The hallway didn't look different, but the binder. The binder had grown heavier. Inside, more pages. Still handwritten, still quiet. But now, beneath the stories, a new question lingered, unspoken, yet visible. How do you remember someone the system never saw? Arnold placed the folded letter inside the binder, not to prove anything. Not to spark outrage, just to let it rest where it belonged, with the truth. 2 days later, he visited the county office. He wore the same jacket he always did, black, unbranded, with the inside seams slightly torn. He stood in line like everyone else. When his number was called, he stepped forward and handed over the document. The clerk, a woman in her early 40s with careful hair and a soft southern accent, glanced at the letter, then at him. Then back to her screen. "I'm sorry, sir," she said gently. "We have no employment record. Not under that name, not under a social security number, not under a third-party contractor file." Arnold remained still. "He worked there," he said. "I don't doubt it," she replied, "but for state purposes, without formal documentation. He kept that building running." Her hands hovered over the keyboard. For a moment, she didn't speak. Then, after a pause too long for comfort, she added, "Unfortunately, without legal status, our system treats that as community presence, not employment." Arnold's jaw shifted slightly, not clenched, just held still, like a man who'd been here before. He nodded once, then turned and walked out. That night, he returned to the gym. The building had changed ownership 3 times. The office walls were a different color now, brighter, cleaner. But the back hallway still smelled like sweat and bleach and something older than either, use. Arnold walked past the vending machines, past the fire extinguisher Joe used to dust without being asked, past the floor tile Joe had quietly patched with leftover adhesive from a Home Depot bag. He reached the bulletin wall. The binder was there, so was the plaque, but it wasn't enough, not anymore. Arnold reached into his coat, unwrapped a cloth bundle. Inside, a new plaque. He had ordered it quietly, no sponsor, no ribbon, just 2 lines etched deep. "This hallway is dedicated to Joseph Santiago." Not for the time he was paid, but for the time he gave when no one was watching. He screwed it into the wall himself. No permission, no press, just a drill and silence. When he was done, he stepped back. The light from the emergency exit sign hit the metal softly, casting a faint red glow across the letters. It looked warm, lived in, real. No one noticed it that night, but someone would, eventually. And when they did, they wouldn't need a file to understand. They would see the wall, the notes, the pen marks, the stories written in real time by people who never needed a system to tell them who mattered. Winter left slow that year. The hall still smelled faintly of wet shoes and dusted gym towels. The heater clinked in uneven rhythms. Someone had left a bottle of hand sanitizer half-used, tucked behind the corner bench. No one noticed the wall anymore, not in the way they used to. The novelty had worn off. The binder was still there, but the pages had slowed. 1 entry last week, none this week. Life moved. People came to lift weights, stretch quads, get stronger. The plaque just existed, until one Monday afternoon when Grace, a part-time front desk intern with a nervous laugh and a sociology degree, went to wipe the bulletin board. She reached for the binder to lift it, and something shifted underneath. A soft click, a small sound, not loud but unmistakable. She paused, looked closer, and found a key. It wasn't shiny. In fact, it looked old. the kind you don't make copies of anymore. Tied to it was a note, folded twice and paper clipped. Just 6 words, scrawled in handwriting like slow rain, didn't want it to be lost. No name, no date. Just that, Grace brought it to the manager, who brought it to Arnold, who didn't say anything for a long time after seeing it. He just held the key in his palm, ran his thumb over the ridges, and closed his fingers slowly, as if holding it tighter might rewind time. That evening he returned to the gym alone. The staff had gone, the lights were dimmed. Outside, the street lamps buzzed, flickering faint yellow across parked cars. Arnold stood in the hallway. He walked past the binder, past the plaque, to the utility door at the far end, the one no one used anymore. It had been locked since renovation, but not that night. He inserted the key, and the door opened. Behind it, a small room, bare floor, wooden shelves, a few worn towels folded neatly, a crate labeled Lost and Found. A single mug, faded ceramic, with the words Best Janitor barely visible under years of scrub. And taped to the back wall, crooked but precise, was a list. A handwritten chart of cleaning supplies, maintenance checks, and staff birthdays dated back 17 years. No title, no stamps, but every line was signed, J.S. Arnold stood there for a long time. No phone, no camera, just memory. Not all doors opened forward, some opened backward. The next morning, a new note appeared in the binder, not written in pen, but typed, taped in. The lines were simple. Joseph Santiago never clocked in, never asked for recognition, never waited for applause, but he was here. He noticed when the mop bucket was dry, when the vending machine ate your dollar. When you cried in the hallway and didn't want to explain why. He left the lights on when you forgot. This place ran because he cared, not because he had to. A friend. No one signed it, but they didn't need to. Because by then, people had stopped asking who started the wall. They only came to add to it. Years later, when the gym changed hands again, the new owner thought about repainting the hallway. He paused at the plaque, and didn't. He left it there, just above the binder, and beneath it, the tiny note with the key was framed in glass. 6 words, still crooked, still true, didn't want it to be lost.